Okay, Bruchim Abayim Be'ezrat Hashem. Today we will be learning Mishnah Zayin, Mishnah number 7 of the first chapter in Bava Metzia. Again, we are learning today for the complete and speedy refuah shlema of Miriam Bat Muluk, as we are sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Matthew Saragatfar for the entire Masechet Bava Metzia. So, B'ezrat Hashem, we're learning for her speedy refuah shlema. Yesterday's Mishnah was very complicated. We talked about some very tricky things that people might do in the event that somebody would find a lost document that says how much someone owes somebody else. And over here in today's Mishnah, we're going to see a little bit different type of things that somebody could find. Says the Mishnah, Matzah gitei nashim. The person is walking in the street and he finds a get. A get, as we know, is a document of divorce. It's a bill of divorce that a husband writes to his wife when he wants to divorce her, and then she can go ahead and get married to anybody else. The halakha says in such a case, so the question of this Mishnah is, what happens when somebody is in the street and he finds a get in the middle of the street? So that's one question. We'll get to the answer in the Mishnah. Next, says the Mishnah, V'shichrurei avadim. What happens if a person is walking in the street and he finds a document that is from a master to his slave? Let's say that, God forbid, there's a situation of, the Torah sanctions slavery, but as we know, it's not so common nowadays. But let's say that somebody goes ahead and he has a document that in order to free a slave, you have to write a document, just like you have to give a get to a woman. You have to give a document that tells the slave he is now free and you are not his master anymore. So you go to the street, you're in the street, you find such a document on the floor. What do you do with that? That's question number 2. Question number 3, he finds diatiki. Diatiki means he finds a will of somebody who was very close to death. And this person dictated to people what he wants to be done as he was very close to death. When a person wants to gift a gift to somebody close to death, so all he needs to do is just make a declaration. He says, this property is going to go to so-and-so, this property is going to go to so-and-so, and once the guy dies, then all of that takes place. So long as he's still alive, he has the right to go ahead and renege and say, no, I don't want this to happen. He can still change his mind. Now over here, what they did was, when he said at the time that he was very close to his death, he wants the house in Tel Aviv to go to his cousin. He wants the property in Manhattan to go to his nephew, right? He goes ahead and he starts to detail all these things. So someone wrote down on a piece of paper everything that he said in order to serve as proof that this is what he said. Okay, and then when he dies, it'll transfer to that person. So that someone finds such a document on the floor. What does he do? Question number 4, matana. He finds a document on the floor that says that such and such property is being given over as a gift to so-and-so. This is somebody who's a healthy person. We find that Mr. So-and-so, who is, Baruch Hashem, alive and well, has written a document detailing a gift of a property to Mr. So-and-so. And you find that on the floor. What do you do with it? Next, the shovrim. Shovrim are receipts. When somebody pays back a loan, so the custom is to write a receipt for that person that he paid back the loan. So what happens when you find that receipt? Do you give it back to the person to whom the receipt was written or not? Says the Mishnah, in all of these cases, Harei ze lo yachzir. he should not return any of these documents to the people that are mentioned in these documents. Why not? Says the Mishnah, She'ani omer ktuvim hayu v'nimlach alehem shelo litnam. We are concerned that perhaps the person wrote these documents, but then for whatever reason, never actually went through with what he was planning on doing. So for example, let's say the get. The husband said to himself, you know what? Enough is enough. She's burnt the food way too many times. Time to say bye-bye. God forbid, right? That's what happens. He says, I'm going to write this get, and he goes ahead, he hires a sofer, and they write the get exactly the way that it's supposed to be written, and then comes the day to deliver the get to his wife, and he says to himself, am I out of my mind? What, because she burnt the food, I'm going to lose my the love of my life? Really? So he says at that point, I'm not giving it. So it could be that he says, okay, I'm not giving it. And then he started to be not so careful with it. And at that point, he lost it. So it could very well be that the woman was never divorced. And if she were to receive this get now, it would be a mistaken divorce because the husband never meant to give it, and the whole thing is null and void. She goes and gets married now, God forbid she's not divorced, the baby would be a mamzer. It's a disaster. So therefore, don't give the get to the woman. Next, shichrei avadim, the lost document. It could be that the guy felt time to free the slave. He's worked long enough, and then he changed his mind. Or it could be that the person meant to give the gift to his nephew or so on and so forth, but then he changed his mind, right? In either the case of the guy before his death or the guy who's alive and well, it might have been the original plan, but then things might have changed. And that's why they were careless about it and they left it in the streets. So in all these cases, or for example, a person who received a receipt, the person who wrote a receipt was expecting payment for the loan. The guy calls him up and says, listen, I'm going to give you the money back today. He says, okay, great. So he goes ahead, he writes a receipt in anticipation of receiving the payment of the loan. But then the guy never showed up. So, he was going to give this receipt to the person, but it never ended up happening. So therefore, he is, that's why he ended up being a little bit careless about it, and he dropped it in the street because it never ended up happening. If you were to then give this receipt to the person who owes the money, then he would have proof that he paid when he never actually paid. So in all these cases, the halakha says, don't return these documents to the people that are mentioned there because of the fact that it can be actually used in the wrong way. All right, gentlemen, that's today's Mishnah. If you have any questions, bechavod, now's the time.
Rabbi, is there an obligation to try to find the other owner maybe and give it to the other one instead?
So that's the thing. If you give it to him also, then it's
he'll have upper hand as well.
So it's basically just keep it. You can't really do anything with it. Exactly. All right, guys. Chazakim u'bruchim. Have a wonderful day. Only good news. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we will continue tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Go to, guys.